Good morning, everyone. My name is Gerald Tang. I am one of the Associate Director at the STAR Career Development Center. Welcome, everybody, to the session. We are launching a four-part series with the additions of the on-campus recruiting programs for the International Student Job Search Series that we are rolling out this particular month. I'll be doing most of the sessions throughout the rest of the series. So feel free to please make sure you RSVP for each of the sessions so that we can send you the confirmation email to everyone. So again, it's on every Wednesday from now till the rest of the April. Feel free to please go on to Star Search for those of you current students to RSVP through the system. If you are not a current student yet, if you are in a different adjoined programs, if you'd like to RSVP, make sure that you do RSVP on the flyer link that is provided in the initial email as well. Just so a little bit about my background, I've been in the industry for quite some time. I'm one of the associate directors who handle our office operation and marketing. I'm looking forward to talking to all of you about some of the experiences I have working with international students, and obviously with experiences kind of working with international folks in terms of the job search process. We're going to talk a little bit about the employment option if you are searching for opportunity in the US. So we're going to talk about the employment option with different visa type. We're going to discuss the different immigration status and how that might affect your search process. And we will talk a little bit about some of the challenges some of the international students, including some of you here, might encounter as you're going through the search process. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what are some of the strategies might you be able to take in as you're going through the search process within the US. Obviously, we'll go through that and we'll talk a little about what are some of the things you want to be aware of for yourself and also for the environment in the US. And we'll provide you some of the career resources and places that you can take a look at. We can certainly dive deeper into some of these websites and give you some of the highlight of things you can do and search. So employment option. Some of these are pretty common as far as information that most students in the Baruch College, especially current students, might be on the F1 and J1 visa options that as they come into the US studying at Baruch College. Now, I will always encourage all of you to visit the International Student Services Center if you haven't done so already. Obviously, they are all remote right now, but you can definitely visit them on the website. And they have a lot of really good information about different on-campus employment, curriculum practical training, optional practical training, academic training, and so forth that you might want to spend some time learning more about. All the students who, once you arrive to campus, if you are, this is your first year at Baruch College, it's the first time you visit the US and be on campus, all the international students are eligible to work in on-campus employment with about maximum of about 20 hours per week while the classes in sessions. So what that might mean is that you can technically start to gain experiences the minute you arrive to Baruch College. Now, I know some of you here are current students, and it's not an easy process to refinding employment, whether or not it's on and off campus. So I want to put disclaimers out there. Part of the reason is a lot of on-campus offices doesn't have a centralized location to post the opportunity in one portal. So yes, Star Search, which is the portal that we'll be talking about through our office, might capture some of the on-campus employment options, but not every single office might post the opportunity through our system for that. So in terms of ways you can find on-campus employment, I always encourage students to think about visiting different offices in which asking for employment options might they be available for students to pursue. Some of the common places that might you want to consider, for example, undergraduate admissions office or the Welcome Center might offer opportunity there. Maybe the gymnasium, maybe looking at ways you can be able to help staffing the gym. The Small Business Center might have opportunity for that. Office sometime might have opportunity for that. It depends on the timing and also the budget availability for on-campus employment, especially for international students. The other option that's pretty common is called Curricular Practical Training, CPT. Curricular Practical Training is an employment that an integral part of a curriculum. So CPT you should define as alternate work and study, internship, co-op, or arranging with the approval of your program. So what does that really mean? It basically means that if your particular degree type at Baruch has a required internship requirement, if that's the case, Sometimes students will be asked to use CPT, curricular practical training, in order for you to fulfill the internship requirement for it. And you can be able to use that as a visa option for employment in the US. In that case, it doesn't have to be employment on campus. It could just mean that employment either on campus or off campus in that case. So some students may use the internship opportunity outside of the Baruch College and working in actual businesses using CPT if their degree is part of the degree requirement. Some of you may have heard of the OPT, optional practical training. Oftentimes international students are using that for post-graduation experiences and employment. Again, the idea is optional practical training means that you have the option to gain practical training either post-graduation or before graduation. There is a time limit associated with OPT, usually is around a year, but obviously the policy changes on a regular basis. So do always check the USCIS, which is the Immigrations and Customs Office, to get the most up-to-date information about that. For some of the J1 option, if you're on J1 visa, there is an option for academic trainings for you to pursue as a way to gain employment. Most of you might be thinking about the idea H1B, which is a visa type after OPT that some of the company might be helping you to sponsor to gain the H1B visa for you to work in the US for longer than 1 year employment. Now, something I always encourage, there are great resources at Baruch, the International Student Services Center, which is the website listed here, have really good in-depth information to explain everything that I just mentioned to you. Now, on-campus employment obviously is on campus, so there's certainly no cost for the department except the money that they're paying you are coming from the department budget. So there's no cost to process any visa as far as the on-campus employment option. In terms of CPT, there is no cost to the employer. There may be, paperwork and timing and so forth that you want to factor in. But generally speaking, there isn't a particular cost to an employer when they're working with the students in terms of visa itself. Optional practical training, OPT, there isn't a cost associated with the employer when they are using that to file for employment. Academic training for J1, there's definitely no cost for the employer as well. But for the H1B, which a lot of students are hoping for if you're planning to stay in the US, there is a filing fee for the employer. And as you go through the process of filing for H1B, it's not a guarantee. So that's why sometimes it is challenging and sometimes can be restricting for employer to offer H1B options to working with a student to petitions to the US government. Now, all the information about fees and filing of all these costs are on the USCIS website. Again, it's the United States Customs and Immigration Services Office. Knowing these options is critical and essential because oftentimes it may be something that is foreign to the employer who working with you, trying to learn about different options and what are additional steps might they need to take if they're taking you on as an intern or as a professional full-time staff member or even part-timers. So your job as an international have to understand what the visa options are, where the timings are, what the restrictions will be, and a possible associated costs associated with the employer. So something you want to be proactively explain to the employer so that you can kind of boost the confidence into the employer mindset in helping you securing those employment with the company. As far as discussing immigration status, as you're applying for opportunity, whether or not internship or full-time opportunity in the US, one thing I always say is in different country, in different places, the different culture and customs and ways in which how they can ask you questions, especially during the application process might be different. In some countries across the world, they may be okay to ask you some of these information that may consider as illegal to the US employer when you're applying for US employment. In the US, it is illegal for potential employer to ask you some of the questions such as your race, your marital status, your past salary information, your specific medical records or arrest records, and financial status. Now, they can ask you, have you been arrested before? Or are there any medical issues that impact your employment? But they're not gonna be required to ask you, what do you have? Or what exactly your arrest is about. So they're not allowed to ask that proactively. Now, you have the option to provide that information, but you're not necessarily required to provide that, and they shouldn't be asking you upfront with some of this information in more detail. They are usually commonly ask you the questions that, are you eligible to work in the US with or without restrictions? Or they may be asking you the question, are you authorized to work in the US? So this question is actually appropriate and legally allowed to ask. So this is the question that you want to be honest to answer, that whether or not you're authorized to work in the US and not authorized to work in the US. So this question always comes up from the international students. If your employer asks you, are you authorized to work in the US without restriction in the future, means that any time in the future, are you authorized to work without restriction? The answer for you, for most of you who are international students, is no, because you need the visa in order for you to be authorized to work in the US. Some of the challenges the students may face, certainly the first thing you may think about is languages. Obviously, some of you are native born in different places. Some of you might be in, English is not your first language, so you might come across this as the first time you using different languages as you communicate with employer. Some of you might feel very anxious about how to express yourself, finding the right words, finding the right language for you to think about. You know, something to think about, something to consider. How can you prepare yourself so that you are actually articulating, preparing your interview process and showing that confidence that you can maintain and compose yourself. The second thing you may think about is hiring complexity. When a student's eligibility expire, in order for you to continue to work in the US, your employments may be required to sponsor you for a change of status to a work visa. So an example would be from an employer perspective, if I'm hiring international students, I know that at a certain time your visa might expire. You might need to change your status, maybe from an OPT to H-1B or anything down the future. So from an employer perspective, it does takes a little bit of that anxiety to think about how can I retain a good employee to go from one visa to the other, knowing that there's a possibility of the US government rejecting the visa process, right? So it is not an easy process, as something that a lot of employers are considering and might need to factor in, and they're hiring you as an international candidate for some of the employment in that company. And your job as an international student is to understand how to demystify the process itself, how to provide references and resources for employer to better understand if they're not familiar with the process, or how to get you to the OPT process, how to get you to the H-1B process, how to get you to the other application process for work visa. The third thing is commitment. You know, it is a commitment that employers are putting in for you, right? You know, you want to think about any internship, whether or not it's domestic or international candidates. It takes time and effort and energy for any company to hire an employee, get them up to speed for training, get them to produce value for the company. I always suggest students to think about your locations if you're searching for employment in the US. You know, New York City is wonderful and it's great. A lot of great company in New York City area. Being in US, being in New York is definitely a great benefit for you, but it's also a very competitive market because a lot of students across the US, both domestic or international students, might also look at New York as a prime location for them to stay if they're hoping to stay in the US. So your job as international students, asking yourself the question, can you be a little bit more flexible with your geographical preferences? You know, being flexible is always a great value because not everyone, for example, at Baruch, were willing to move to a part of the country, but you already, as an international student, have that experiences moving from your home country to the US. Economy does play an impact. It's not just for international students, it's certainly for all students, whether or not both international or domestic. You know, how does economy impact hiring? As you probably know, and it's all over the news right now with the whole virus situation. It does affect a lot of hiring process and employment process, employment outlook through different time, different experiences. At this point, I will encourage all international students and domestic students to be aware of how does an economy impact your search in your industry and start to open up for option and possibility in expanding your search. Understanding the US culture and custom can be a challenge for international students or even for domestic students. Some of these are not just unique to international student itself. An example will be understanding, how our culture work from being in the US, being a New Yorker, maybe different than being in your home country, how people greet each other, how people, communicate with each other, what are some of the appropriate things to say, to behave in a work setting, might be very different when you're going from one country to the others. Certainly policy changes make a big impact for international students. Depends on the administration, depends on leadership, depends on who is at the White House. Some of these policies can change and might change on a regular basis. So your job as an international student is to keep yourself more informed and educated about these possible changes that might limit your search process as you're going through your job and internship search. So here's some of the tips in terms of a good job search process. Utilize your resources. There are a variety of resources that can help you get yourself up to speed. We're going to go into that later on as well, and thinking about example of Star Search, what we have at Star, what do we have at Baruch College, what do you have at your fingertips. So certainly Star Search, the employment recruiting portals, is a great resource for you because employers are letting us know, hey, I'm looking for Baruch applicants through the process, right? Baruch alumni, certainly look at LinkedIn to search for Baruch alumni, especially those who may be an international student or working or studying in international places before, might be more open to understanding the experiences you may have as international students, what that might mean, being in the US, or what that might mean in international locations. You may have your own network, whether or not it's back home, elsewhere, internationally, or in the US. I always encourage them to start your search early. Don't want to wait until now I'm going to ready to search for internship at the end of graduation, right? Start to think about how you can prepare yourself and start to make yourself competitive through the process as you're going through the search. While you are at the US, while you are at Baruch, joining clubs, organization, volunteer before or even after. For those of you who are at the international location right now, or before you're coming into the Baruch College experiences, ask yourself, how can I start to gain experiences while I'm back home? So it's important to think about what are ways you can continue to gain experiences. For some of you, for example, joining some of these competitions, do a hackathon or do something that will involve and stimulate your work experiences. If you are an accounting finance student, start to gain experiences about finance and accounting as far as volunteering is concerned. Maybe join one of those competitions and challenges, or maybe start to think about volunteer tax preparation. Those are examples of things that you can start to gain experiences in, or even attend some training. There's a lot of great training programs out there, and start to prepare yourself. How can I make myself stand out and bring values to some of these companies? Have a backup plan. It's probably a good idea to have a dual country search or multiple country search if you are open to look for opportunity, both internship or full-time experiences in the US and elsewhere. It could be home country or any other places. Start to think about what might be a restriction that you might not have if you're working in other parts of the world. Prepare for your search material. It's always helpful to start to get all the materials ready to go the minute you start your search process. Have your resume together, knowing what a CV is, knowing what a cover letter is, knowing how to prepare for interview, and be flexible with your search. You don't want to be very narrow with your search process, understanding your criteria, understanding what you're looking for. So network with people in any industry that you want to be actively pursuing. Think about who you know and how you can make connection to understand the world work around them. Whether or not it's in the US, whether or not it's elsewhere, it's really making that similar connection. And how can I put myself out there and make connections with other people? And what you need to look for, ask yourself that question, what some of the skills might you have right now, right? As an international, focus on the positive. You have exposed to at least 2 or 3 different kind of culture and different type of country. You might have a very good understanding of what is it like to, to have a business in your home country. What is it like to communicate with, folks in your home country? How can you start to bring those mindset to any company that might value that? What are your interests? What's something that you really truly excited for? What's something that you can bring to the table? who you are as a person, what values might you hold, what kind of work environments might you want to be. Is it an open office? Is it a small office? Is it a large office? Is it a large company, a small company? What might make you excel in the work environment that you want to be in, right? Think about your lifestyle. Is it a 9-to-5 job? Is it a 5-to-9 job? You know, what other options that you might want to think about as you're going through your search criteria? It's so important, I always say to students, understanding what you're looking for. You know, employer always say you don't want to be in a situation and say, hey, tell me a little bit about why you're interested in this company. And your response will be, I'm just looking for anything, right? Employer wants to work with somebody who knows what they're looking for, who are very focused and interested in working in the company and industry of their choice. What the recruitment process like, you know, what salary that you can expect in working in some of these company and industry. Again, locations and company, what type of company really excites you to work for, not just a brand name, but what else besides a brand name that might you be excited to work for, and be able to articulate that to the employer through the process. Always say you want to be clear about what industry type and what job function might you want to be in. So an example will be, you know, if you are a major in marketing, let's say, right? Marketing means marketing job. So your title can be, I'm working in marketing associate. That could be your job functions right on the right-hand side. But the industry type can be different. So maybe you can work in a tech company such as Google, and I want to work as a marketing associate at Google, right? So ultimately you want to clarify what job functions might you want to be in, means a day-to-day tasks and your role that you want to be in, and the industry type. You know, what industry might you be interested in? Is it a tech? Is it a government agency? Is it not-for-profit? Is it, you know, consumer product company? Is it healthcare? But within the industry type, you have a variety of functions that you can perform within the industry itself. And if I solving work, you know, you want your only way you can start clarifying the industry type and job function is to continue to learn about the world of work and knowing how you can go about preparing yourself to clarifying some of these career interests. You know, maybe looking back in your resume to do a reflection on it. You know, what have you done? Where have you have experiences in? How can I start to look at things that I really enjoy being in, and what may be some of the tasks I really love doing. Think about an assessment. We do offer career assessment for students to learn about themselves, especially for skill, interest, value, and so forth. Talk to people that you know well and ask them those questions. How do they describe you? What are some of the things that they notice about you that you excelled in? Trying and learning about, gain experience, you know, doing some volunteer work, do some projects. As far as learning about the world of work, you know, look at different job sites and job portals. Use that as an opportunity to research about what the requirements are, what the qualification, what company might you interested in, what types of environment that you find it really interesting. That also gives you a sense of the job title that you may want to target as a result. If you're knowing a little bit about the title that you want to go for, usually the job ads will tell you the preferred qualification and requirements. That will be a good place for you to start thinking about what are some of the things that I have, what some of the area for me to learn more, what are some of the skills I already can bring to the table, and what may be a technical or non-technical skill set might I want to gain experiences in so that I can be qualified for this role. Look at LinkedIn, you know, attend event, get yourself out there to learn more about ways in which how the world works in the US. So what do we have in Baruch? Baruch at our office, we have a weekly newsletter, hire different types of opportunity, certainly is virtual info session that we have been promoting with different company, talking about what they're looking for, what kinds of work environments can you expect working in those company, and also different positions that they might be recruiting for. Our blog, our website under STAR has our blog with different articles and different links, resources might you want to take advantage of. Our website has our resume guide, has internship for credit information, has informations and resources about a variety of things that you can take advantage of as a student. Within Star Search, we have Focus 2, which is a career assessment product that I highly encourage all of you to take advantage of, in Vault, which is a really good product. If you get through Star Search, you can be able to link to that. Vault is a great site because it gives you top industry type, top ranking, and so forth. Going Global, it's a really good website that you can learn about. This is a highly valuable resource for international students. Baruch Library has something called UniWorld Online, which is an online directories of American firms operating in foreign country or even foreign company operating in US. On campus, they have Executive on Campus, which is great mentoring programs. They are looking for students to make connection with the industry professionals through the EOC program, Executive on Campus. From the Baruch also have variety of resources like tools for clear speech. If you're concerned about how to articulate yourself, want to practice more about your language skills, tool for clear speech is fantastic. They also work with the Conversation Partners program, match you up with a domestic students to start to practice your day-to-day conversations and be able to continue to practice your language skills. The Weizmann Center for International Business works with all Baruch students who are interested in international-based internship opportunity or even different kind of fellowship and international programs. Writing Center, great resource if you're looking to improve your writing skills, even looking at how to edit your cover letter and more precisely, how to enhance your writing capability. Writing Center has really good information there. The Field Center for Entrepreneurship oftentimes also give you different resources so that you can take a look at, maybe training program, if you're interested in entrepreneurship. Other website, industry specific professional group. Every single industry has a industry specific job board and job site. So an example will be the American Marketing Association for students interested in marketing, or finance security professional. Those are really good professional groups that you can search for. Some of them might even have job boards available for students as well. Job sites like Indeed.com, Simply Hire, Career Builders, even Craigslist. These are really good websites for you to do your research. One caveat there is I always encourage students not to post their resume directly through the site. Oftentimes, you can be able to see what companies is hiring for from these websites. And I will encourage, if you are interested in applying for these opportunities, use that information, go to the company website and apply for the job directly through the site. Instead of posting your resume on LinkedIn and hoping something will get back to you. You can also use industry-specific job boards. Again, a lot of different job boards available out there for you to learn about those opportunities. Social media sites, like I said, LinkedIn has a job site there. You can also make connection with alumni through LinkedIn. A lot of companies also have online presence like, Twitters or Instagram, Vault and Going Global, which I'm going to jump into in a second. And the last thing is temporary agency and staffing firms. If you are looking for opportunity post-graduation. So understanding the recruiting process, one of the things you ought to think about is what are the recruiting process once you narrow down what industry, what job functions you want to be in. Think about what are some of the recruiting process. Are they smaller firms? Are they larger size company? Do they have a structured recruiting process? Means that they have, let's say, internship training programs, or they have a full-time associate program that hiring in bulk, or ad hoc hiring, which a lot of companies just hire when they have an opportunity and vacancy happen, right? So in a structured hiring process, a larger size company, typically they'll hire people a couple months in advance. But in an ad hoc hiring process, most of the time, most company, when somebody leaves the vacancy, they will then hire somebody onto the opportunity itself. Some company, especially larger size company, they may hire students into an internship program with the hope that they will train them, fill the interns, then hopefully offer full-time hiring, full-time offer. That's not uncommon, especially larger size finance and accounting companies. So as international, you want to get yourself into the internship program if possible, with the hope that they can gain employment for full-time. So general timeline-wise, you want to prepare your internship search 3 to 6 months prior. For some larger size company, it could be 6 months to even 12 for some scenario, because they can be very competitive. If you're looking for full-time hire, sometime I would say about 3 to 6 month time frame prior to your start time will be helpful. Again, always remember to connect with alumni and recent grad to learn about the search process. Set up Google Alert or Search Alert if you have some of these target company in mind. Start to keep track of how their recruiting pattern will be. Now that you go into the process of preparing, you want to make sure that you are organizing yourself, understanding what the resume, US resume may look like, cover letter may look like. Prepare if people are Googling you online, what information can they see online, and what's something you want to think about your online presence. Preparing your interviewing skills, understanding how to do small talk. What does that mean? You know, some of these kind of chit-chat, casual conversation, what are ways you can start to get yourself into comfortable doing that? And knowing some of your authorization status, visa process. Some industry you might need to prepare for an exam. So for example, actuarial science. Again, things that we have available at STAR. On our website, you have the resume, interviewing, cover letter guide, internship information. STAR Search definitely have the job and internship postings, our networking function, also going global. We have variety of workshops. Again, I'm doing different topical workshop. Next week is about application materials, following with the interviewing skills, networking skills, and so forth. So I'll be doing a deep dive with some of these topics later on as well. We do offer career fair expos, industry panels, employer session, and so forth available for students to take advantage of. So definitely encourage all of you to do so. And we still offer resume cover letter review, mock interview through our online resources. So I encourage all of you to still schedule appointments with all of us here, even though we are working remotely. We definitely have career advisement to help you navigate the search process on a one-on-one basis. So encourage all of you to schedule it online. And here are some of the additional websites that I will hope that you all will find it helpful. Again, I will have this available for students at the end as well. USCIS website, My Visa Job, get a list of some of the visa company who have posted H-1B jobs. One2World organizations, really good resources available for you as well. The Office of Foreign Labor Certifications, give you information about visa, fee, and policies. H-1B base, have H-1B job information there. Internationalstudent.com, my post articles and resources available for international students. Going Global, which I'm going to dive right in right now. And then UniWorld, which is the site I encourage all of you to take a look at. The variety of upcoming workshop, I hope that all of you can join us. We can do a deep dive into application material next week. We'll talk a little bit about OCR on the following day, job interview process on the following week, and the networking workshop to wrap up our series. So this is my student account. So I'm gonna log into the account. On your account, if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you will see that there's our resume guides there. Focus 2 is available here at Vault. Really good resource. I'll encourage all of you to utilize that with really good information. They also have job sites here. I'm going to spend it Going Global. If you click on this link, it will give you full access to Going Global instead of just going to the website directly. So an example, H-1B visa database is listed in here, employer information and directories, career guides. They have really good information about country-specific career guides. So let's say I'm looking for opportunity in Brazil. You can click on Brazil. We'll give you information about job resources right here. So I'm gonna scroll down a little bit right here. They give you job website, online website that you can look at staffing firm, temporary agency right here, search firm option. What some of the not-for-profit in Brazil that you can look at. How can you find an internship volunteer at that particular country? It also gives you resume tips. So Brazil resume may look very different than a US resume. So this is a good resource for you to look at industry-specific or country-specific resources to get you started with some of these information. Also give you work visa options and so forth. Thank you again for taking the time to come in. Hope to see all of you on next week for our resume and our cover letter material conversations. Again, for those of you who don't know where to RSVP, click on the events button under the workshop tab. You should be able to see that through the list here. Today's sessions listed in here. If you scroll further down, you will see that the next one, which is April 15 from 10 to 11 here. So you can click on it, you can then select RSVP. Thank you very much. Take care, everybody.